Giadich, agus Céad Míle Fáilte Ród. Greetings and 100,000 welcomes. My name is Father Anthony McLaughlin, and as you can tell from my accent, I ain't from Kentucky. I was born in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and for 27 years I lived in the city of Belfast, minutes from the beautiful city of Carrickfergus. You are now seeing a picture of the famous 12th century Norman castle in Carrickfergus. It is a beautiful place, constructed in the year 1187. Carrickfergus has been a sister city of Danville for these past 13 years. The castle is something that everyone sees immediately upon their arrival in Carrickfergus. The castle, in fact, dominates the Carrickfergus landscape. We have a treat for you. Brought to you by the Danville Sister Cities Commission, we will give a half-hour presentation entitled A Wee Bit of Ireland in Danville. We will visit 3 homes and taste food and drink from Ireland. Our first visit will be with Karen and Andy Ryan in their home on Maple Avenue.
And we're so glad that you all came here tonight to be in our kitchen and to sample maybe some Irish food, which I'm sure, Father, you've missed a wee bit of food from home.
Oh, yes.
And as we are an island, we're surrounded by the sea, the ocean. So we have some seafood. So what we have here is just regular prawn cocktail with Marie Rose sauce.
Lovely.
And then some potted shrimp. Some Irish brown bread I made.
Oh,
And of course,
yes,
Kerrygold butter.
Yes,
a
yes.
bit of the...
Yes, it has to be Kerrygold.
It has to be.
Yes.
And then some Bailey's Irish cream cupcakes, or cheesecakes, really.
Delicious,
They're
yeah.
cheesecakes.
And of course, Guinness, the
Of
important
course.
ingredient.
Guinness.
What can I say?
You can't.
Yes.
Guinness, and we have some, I think we have some cider.
The cider,
Magners.
yes.
We have Magner cider.
Yes, yes.
And of course, there's also whiskey.
I think I would try. Can I try some of the cheese, Karen?
Of course.
Please.
They're both cheddars.
Thank you.
And 2 different. One's a Wexford, and the other one's a Wicklow.
And this is Wexford?
That's Wexford, and that's Wicklow.
Oh, goodness.
These are areas in Ireland which are all part of the Golden Vale area, and which the Kerrygold butter comes from. We called it's called the Golden Vale because all the best
that's all
the best dairy foods come from there, correct?
The Wicklow is delicious.
Is it? Yeah, we like real, as you know yourself, Father, sharp cheddars.
Oh, sure.
And that's
goodness.
one thing I do miss here in the States. At home we have them marked 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, how sharp they are. Here it's mild, medium, or sharp.
Sure. In Ireland it's sharp and sharper still.
Exactly.
Yes.
The sharper
Oh,
the
sure.
better.
Yes.
So, Andrew, would you like any, darling?
Sure.
What would you like?
Oh, delicious.
Let's try some salmon.
Some salmon?
And the
Alright.
salmon, of course.
Yeah.
And what is this?
Candied bacon. You have to have
Oh.
a rasher. That's
Sure.
we call our bacon rashers.
Mm.
So, want cheese as well? Love?
Oh, lovely. And this is potted?
Potted shrimp. Have you ever had potted shrimp?
No, I don't
Okay,
think
so you just get shallots
Uh-huh.
and fry some shrimp in them in clarified butter.
Oh.
And then you add some nutmeg.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Delicious.
the clarified butter then sits on the top in the fridge. And it was done years, before refrigeration was, so that it would preserve the shrimp. And then
Oh, that's very nice.
It's a little bit salty and a little bit warm
Oh,
all at
sure.
the same time. And you can put it on a cracker or
Oh, it's delicious.
eat it. It's a little
Oh,
different.
sure. Oh,
A
it is,
little
yeah.
different.
I haven't had that in a long, long time.
Oh, good.
Oh,
good.
sure, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And then, of
Yeah.
course, the loaf of
Oh.
bread, of course. Odlum's flour. So that's an Irish flour.
And you made this bread yourself?
Yes,
From scratch?
from the Odlum's mix.
Fantastic.
I could show you the mix.
Yes, yes. Now the delicious, what is this called again?
It was potted shrimp.
Potted shrimp.
So what you'll do if you're interested in making it at home,
Sure.
it takes about 5 minutes, that's all. You go ahead and you heat some clarified butter up on the stove, get some shallots, brown them over for a few minutes, till not brown them, but make them translucent.
Sure.
Add the shrimp and then take it off and blend them all so that it gets nice and small.
It's lovely.
And then while you're doing that, you'll add in a bit of nutmeg into it, and then pot it down
Potted shrimp.
into the pan here, and then pour the rest of the clarified butter over it, and then let it sit for about 4 hours or longer.
It's delicious. What are the little muffins? The little
They're cheesecakes.
cupcakes? Oh, cheesecakes.
So they've got digestive biscuits at the bottom,
Oh, nice.
and then cream cheese baked, and it has some Bailey's Irish cream in it, and then fresh whipping cream and a bit of chocolate syrup and a little endy.
Where have you
A little
been?
endy.
Where have you been all my life? Where have you been all my life? It's delicious.
So good, yeah.
Mhm.
But you know, the funny thing, when I came to Centre and I talked to Milton, he said, "Oh, I always brought people to Ireland, and I used to have this great tour guide and driver," and it happened to be my father was the person
wow.
who brought
Yes.
some of his tours around. And of course, my dad was dead. He died when I was 16. So
Yes.
when he was telling me, he was like, "His name is Paddy," and he was little. I was getting chills. But when I saw the pictures, we knew. So you never know where you end up in
Well,
life.
you never know. You never
don't.
know. And I think also, reflecting on it more deeply, I mean, the whole contribution of sister cities is a very helpful one,
it
particularly
is.
with Ireland. Because in a sense it kind of humanizes the whole experience.
Yes.
And that's important.
Definitely.
Beyond the myth.
Yes.
Some people, their image of Ireland is the quiet man,
Yeah.
John Wayne. Well, yes and no.
There's a lot of loud men out there.
Sure, oh absolutely, absolutely. So I think the Sister City
it's-
enterprise is very helpful.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Oh
It
sure,
is,
and the
definitely.
exchange.
Yes.
And particularly if you're from Ireland,
Yeah.
to come to America and experience it through the eyes of Americans.
Yeah, because they're very welcoming to the Irish.
Oh sure,
Very welcoming.
oh absolutely. Here we are in the kitchen of Russ and Margo Goodwin. Russ,
I'm Russ.
Good to see you.
And this is my wife Margo.
Margo, good to see you, Margo.
And I've been on the Sister City Commission for probably 6 or 8 years, and have gotten a real interest in Ireland. I've been interested in Ireland for a long time. Actually had a couple of my kids went to school in Ireland for a year.
Oh, wonderful.
Just outside of Dublin in Maynooth.
Yes.
And
Well, that's where I studied to be a priest.
Did
in
you
Maynooth.
really?
Oh,
Did you
sure.
really?
Yes.
No kidding.
Yes, yeah.
Well, that's
Because they have
something.
the general university
yeah.
part and then the
Right.
seminary part.
Right.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. So they were
Beautiful part of Ireland, Maynooth.
Yeah. That's what year were you there?
I was there from 92 to 97.
Oh, gee, you were there when Mike was there.
Our oldest son. was there
Yeah.
then.
Oh, he was there at the same
Yeah,
time?
with Notre Dame. We're from Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a small world.
It is a small world.
It's a small world.
Yeah, so that's amazing. So you probably know about the Roost and all those places.
Oh, sure. Oh, intimately. My knowledge of the Roost, intimate, yes, yes. The famous pub in Maynooth.
That's right. Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on. So we, when they were in teaching or over there studying, that was our first trips to Ireland. We went when Mike was there and when Danny was there.
And you got hooked.
We got hooked.
Yes.
Yeah, and my mother was 100% Irish, so so she had hooked me early on.
Oh, good.
So
Yes.
so her grandfather came to the United States because at that time it was a crime to kill an English cop. So, so I'm not sure. If that's
There you
true.
have it. Oh, sure, sure. If you ever needed a reason to leave Ireland,
That's
there
right.
it is.
That's
There
right.
it is.
It was pretty fun because we had our 50th wedding anniversary in Ireland at a castle in Limerick, County Limerick.
Wonderful, yes.
And all our kids went, and they were very
yes, you
impressed
have
because they all got
Yes.
their own bed, so
And their own castle.
That's right.
And you're making something for us
Tonight
called
we're making
cannon, is it?
Colcannon, which is one of the
sure.
things that we make each year for, and I'm not sure you know, I've never really been to Northern Ireland.
Oh, sure. No,
So maybe
Kilcannon's
you could-
popular with us. Oh,
Is
sure.
it? Is it?
Yeah, I think
they-
the last time I had this was probably when I was in Ireland, really.
Huh, really?
So Kilcannon, now tell us what it is again. So it's a mixture of...
It's a mixture. It's comfort food, I think. In
Sure.
Ireland.
Oh,
When the
yes.
people didn't have anything, they had potatoes.
Yes.
As we all
So
make the
potatoes,
potato salmon.
the main ingredient.
So the potatoes.
And you
it
mash
has,
those?
Has mashed potatoes,
Sure.
butter, and cabbage or kale.
Okay.
And I happen to have both. I cooked it in a little bit of bacon grease. There's a little bit of bacon in there, so we'll just mix all that in here.
Sure. Look at that. And is this something you have loved for years?
Well, I don't know. I think I
Is it
probably
comfort?
started. I was probably, you know, Milton wanted me to make something for the Rotary, and so I made Irish soda bread, which was an interesting story. We were on one of
It's
our
not
trips.
easy.
We stayed at a B&B,
Yes.
and we just, you know, every soda bread you taste is different.
Yes.
I'm sure you know,
Yes.
except that your mother's was probably always
Oh,
the same.
sure.
So,
That was always the best.
so we just loved it at this B&B we were staying at, and so we asked the lady for the recipe, and so she says, "Oh, sure." So she started telling us the recipe, and I remember they're writing on a napkin as fast as I can write, and she's doing like a cup and a half of this, and a cup and a half of that, and 2 handfuls of this, and 1 handful of that, and 1 handful.
Sure. Yeah.
Then I got back and had to figure out what a handful was. Let me get some butter here.
Have you always been good in the kitchen? Is cooking
Margo
your
and I
thing?
made a deal. If she cooked for the first 30 years, I'd cook for the next 30 years.
Oh, wonderful. And that's how it's worked?
Yeah.
That's perfect, yeah?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Perfect.
So 30 and 30, 60.
right.
You've got 10 more years.
This now is the quintessential comfort food in Ireland.
Yeah,
That
is
would
it?
be like our
That's you know, I mean,
equivalent of macaroni and cheese.
Seems-
sort of thing.
yeah, it seems
Oh,
like
sure.
when I was there,
Yeah.
the one thing you could count on was 1 or 2 kinds of potatoes at every meal.
Oh, sure.
That's-
Yeah, people would ask you, would you like vegetables with that? Which means mashed potatoes, boiled potatoes, roast potatoes, chipped potatoes, or fried potatoes. So that was your vegetables.
Yeah.
So
Well, I've never been to Northern Ireland,
Yes.
and are the foods pretty much the same?
yeah, pretty much, to be honest.
Are they?
Oh,
Yeah.
sure. We probably in the north we're more influenced by Britain
Right.
in
Right.
the north.
Yeah.
So we would have some more traditional English foods
Uh huh.
that
That's
they
it.
wouldn't necessarily have in the Republic. But Kilcannon, everyone had that.
Did they?
Sure,
so-
yeah, and then people didn't have a lot.
No.
And so,
Well, that's the thing,
no
you
matter
can-
what your economic status was, you always had potatoes, you always had cabbage, you always had bacon. It was
Yeah.
easy.
So that was so that's that.
Did you put butter in that?
I put butter in that, and,
Oh, sure.
and sometimes you can put milk in it too, but they look like they're kind of doing okay just with the butter. And that's basically it for the Kilcannon.
Kilcannon.
So, and that's a staple for when the Irish had potatoes pretty much always, except
Oh,
for
sure.
a few years.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
Yeah. Yes.
And so that's about it. And but the reason we started making it really for the Rotary dinner was because it's a good filler, you know. So
You ready?
ready.
Let's see. Let's see. Oh, that's delicious.
Oh, good.
Oh, that's delicious. Oh,
Good.
sure. Oh,
Oh,
sure.
good. Good.
Mm. Oh,
So, and then the other thing that we make is Aries soda bread, which Margo likes pretty much, and so I make that fairly often for that, and our grandkids will eat it. So we started making that. I think really, well, I guess after we got back from Ireland on our trip there, when we met the lady that told us
is
the
this
recipe.
is that the lady's
This is
recipe?
the recipe. Like the only kind of Irish butter you get around here, I think.
Look at that. Perfect.
There you are.
Oh, thank you.
So.
You know, it pays to love Carrickfergus, doesn't
It
it?
does.
It pays to love Carrickfergus.
It does.
This is perfect.
So is Carrickfergus like a kind of a suburb of Belfast, basically?
Well, I suppose as the area has expanded, it nearly has become a suburb,
Uh-huh.
but it's its own distinct
Is it?
area.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was near the waters at Lough Neagh,
Uh-huh.
and so we would go there just to see the castle, to walk around.
I see.
Oh, sure.
I see.
And in Ireland, everywhere is close,
Yeah.
so
all
it's only
Yeah.
5 minutes drive from downtown Belfast.
Uh-huh.
The city airport's right next to it. Well, in the sense that it's like any major city now. Belfast is like any
Belfast,
major
yeah.
city in Europe.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was police, machine guns,
Yeah. Ooh.
combat gear.
Yeah.
Very different. Very
Huh.
different.
Well, by the time, let's see, our kids, Mike was over there, when was he there? 90s. Chris graduated from Notre Dame in 94. So Mike was probably there in 92, 91 or 92, something like that.
Did he go to the north?
Yeah, he went to the north.
Oh, okay,
And
yeah.
then Danny was there in like 98 or something like that, and he went to the north, and he just loved the north up there.
Yeah.
And he had a bunch of his classmates were from around there, and so he's been back over to visit up
Yeah.
there too. So, so it was, it's a good experience to try.
And I think, with Danville being twinned,
Yeah,
having Carrickfergus as a sister city,
Uh-huh.
particularly with Carrickfergus being in Northern Ireland.
yeah,
I mean, I like that, because when most people in America speak Ireland,
yeah,
they think in terms of the Republic,
right.
not in terms of Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
So Northern Ireland is this unknown
It is.
quantity.
It is.
And so I think twinning with Carrickfergus allows knowledge of Northern Ireland.
Right.
Where we can
It
bring
does.
people from Carrickfergus
Well,
here.
it
and
took us a
Americans.
while on Sister City to even get that down.
Oh, sure. I'm sure that wasn't simple.
Well, you think of Ireland and you think of, St. Patrick's Day or something.
Mhm.
And, there's, the Northern Ireland is a whole different ball of
Oh,
wax.
sure.
So we've had,
Mhm.
with the sister cities, we've had the mayor of Carrickfergus and what the prefect of the area or something came for the Rotary dinners.
Sure.
And it was very interesting to talk with them and,
Mhm.
about where the troubles went and whether they're all really gone.
Oh,
which
sure.
which is
Oh,
interesting.
absolutely.
Yeah. So,
Mhm.
and it's fun. We've tried to. Margo's read every book on the Irish famine there is, I
Oh,
think, and
sure.
so we've done a fair amount of reading on
Yes.
on Ireland and the troubles that they've had over the last 1,000 years or so.
And just that mutual exchange, that mutual sharing.
oh yeah,
Because what happened in Northern Ireland is truly miraculous, where you had two sides who were diametrically opposed to each other, to their very bone marrow,
yep,
are now in government together,
yeah. Isn't that something?
which is incredible.
Well, and then
Absolutely incredible.
what's going to happen with all this Brexit stuff? Are they going to put the fences back up?
Well, they're talking, isn't it a soft border they're
Yeah,
talking
that's what
about?
they're
And the other side of the argument would say, well, no, we're now a separate
Yeah.
country. So
Well-
it's a
Well,
difficult
did
situation.
the Catholics in Northern Ireland want to become part of the Republic?
It's a very interesting question, because the answer would be yes and no.
Oh,
Like anything in Ireland, it's not simple.
right.
It's multi-layered.
That's
It's
right.
multi-layered. You would. I think many people presume that,
uh-huh.
but when you grow up in Northern Ireland and your influence is particularly British, and that's all you've known,
Yeah,
though we feel an affinity with the Republic because we're one island,
right.
sometimes we feel we have more in common
With Britain.
with Britain. It's different.
Yeah,
And as a Northern Irelander, when I went to the Republic of Ireland, they looked at me differently, and I
Uh-huh.
looked at them differently.
uh-huh. They pick up your American accent?
When I go back home, they do.
I'll bet they do.
Welcome to the home of Cindy and Ray Hammond.
I'm Ray Hammond. We are out in our back garden in front of the fireplace, which is my favorite place to enjoy whiskey in general, and for tonight, Irish whiskey. Father?
Fantastic! Oh, fantastic! I hear you're something of an expert when it comes to all things whiskey, particularly Irish.
I have made myself that, yes.
Oh, well, good. So, in relation to whiskey, well, what is unique about Irish whiskey?
Father Anthony, it requires that we understand what whiskey is first.
Yes.
Many people, do not really fathom the breadth of the definition of whiskey. In simple terms, whiskey is a product of the distillation of a fermented grain extract. That ferment, that distillate, is then put into wood casks to age for as short as 2 years to as many as 25 or 30 or 40 years. The grain to be used will in large part define what kind of whiskey we're talking about.
Oh, okay.
Irish and Scottish whiskey use only barley. Canadian whiskey is malted barley and rye.
Okay.
Corn whiskey, as such, is malted barley and corn.
Yes.
Bourbon is malted barley, corn, and either wheat or rye. All of those are whiskeys.
Okay.
What's unique about Irish whiskey, amidst all those, is that Irish whiskey is obviously made only in Ireland. It is triple distilled in large pot stills, copper pot stills. In front of me here I have two miniature versions
see
of
that,
pot
yeah.
stills.
Yes.
The one on the right is a starting still, if you will, in non-technical terms.
Yes.
That's where the ferment would go to do the first distillation in Ireland.
Yes.
And then the one on the left is a doubler. So what comes out of the first still will go into the doubler
Sure.
and be distilled again. And then that will go into a third distillation, into a second doubler, and be distilled the third time. No other barley-derived whiskey is distilled 3 times. That's the primary reason that Irish whiskey is soft and mild. So that's what makes Irish whiskey unique.
So the triple distillation.
Yes.
No other whiskey claims that.
No,
Okay.
none at all.
Okay. And in relation to Irish whiskey then, I mean, it's true to say that it has a deep impact on the culture of Ireland.
Indeed.
And also on the economy of Ireland.
I've been to Ireland many times, and I enjoy the pub life there. The pubs are a community gathering spot.
Oh, sure, yes.
The pubs are places where politics are discussed, business is discussed, family issues are discussed. Lots goes on in the pubs,
Yeah.
and it's often over a jar of the beast.
Oh, sure. Oh, absolutely.
In
yeah.
Ireland, a
Yes.
jar of the beast is just a dram of whiskey. As I said, for the most part, Ireland did not export a lot of whiskey until the latter part of the 20th century. For the bulk of the 20th century, only 2 distilleries operated in Ireland, Bushmills and Jameson.
Right.
Bushmills is up in what is now the Northern Ireland,
Sure.
and Jameson was in Dublin in the Republic. Jameson no longer is a distillery as such. Jameson is now made at Middleton Distillery in County Cork. In Ireland and Scotland both have in common in their history oppression by the English. And that oppression was such through taxation and other means that the Irish and the Scottish had to react to how they would react to that oppression. The Scots, because Scotland is a harsher geography than Ireland,
Oh, sure.
more alpine type geography. The Scots basically said to the representatives of Parliament, they offered a hand gesture to the south and went off and hid in the caves and the nooks and crannies of northern Scotland, in the Highlands.
Yeah.
And in doing so, they continued to produce lots of whiskey, even on a commercial basis, if you will, because it was a bartering unit. They would barter with various farmers with each other by whiskey. So during the latter half of the 20th century, there were probably in round numbers 100 distilleries in Scotland. During that same period of time, there were 2 in Ireland, because the Irish, while the English probably were far more present in Ireland than they were in Scotland during 2 centuries, That has a lot to do with the geography. It's also a lot to do with the Irish the willingness to try to make it work,
Yes.
whereas the Scots didn't want to make it work at all. And so 100 distilleries in Scotland, 2 in Ireland, and until the last 10 years of the 20th century, it stayed that way. In the last 10 years of the 20th century and on into the 21st century, the number of distilleries in Scotland increased by from 100 to say 110, 112. In Ireland to 3, then to 4. In 2013 there were 4 distilleries in Ireland. In 2019 there were 18 distilleries in Ireland. The bulk of the distilleries in Ireland that are now being put online are small, what we might call boutique or micro distilleries. Now by small I don't mean that they just fit into somebody's garage. They're still commercial enterprises, they're still industrial enterprises. But compared to Bushmills and Middleton, they're small, because Bushmills and Middleton are huge. Those distilleries are producing, for the most part, what is called single pot still Irish whiskey. And single pot still Irish whiskey is the equivalent of single malt whiskey in Scotland, where they can be sent off to Ireland and Scotland to age their whiskey. And the majority of casks from the bourbon industry are now sent to Ireland and Scotland. Ireland uses them in their initial aging, but this redbreast, after about 6 years or 8 years in bourbon casks, then goes 4 years in what's called a sherry butt. In the sherry industry, the casks are much bigger, and so they have their own term for them. They're called sherry butts. And the taste of this whiskey is clearly, you can tell that it's derived from a sherry cask. Yellow Spot is produced in the same way as Redbreast, but they take some particular interest in how they manipulate the distillation. But I would probably take Redbreast. Redbreast has a neat story with it. Why is it called Redbreast? It's after Robin Redbreast. It is it's a bow to the Robin Redbreast. You may not know, even though you are from Ireland, you may not know that the only songbird that spends the entire season, the entire year in Ireland is robin, the Robin Redbreast. And its tenacity in the face of what can be some pretty brutal weather in Ireland, its tenacity in the face of that climate is what gives the people who make Redbreast their name for their whiskey, because they think it's a tenacious whiskey. It sticks to you. So, I am going to give you just a note about this. I'll pour you one.
Yes.
All right?
Yes, oh sure.
First thing that I get with the nose is the sherry.
Sure,
It
yes.
has spent so much time in a sherry butt that it has really extracted the sherry essence. And so you've got a good grain whiskey here, a barley whiskey, that gives you a sherry essence. There's a little bit of the wood there too.
Yeah, oh sure.
It's spent 12 years in wood, which is a long time. In the bourbon
smell
industry,
the splinters.
yes. In the bourbon industry, the average is 6 to 8 years, and so this is a 12-year wood product. So, and
Sláinte.
sláinte.
Oh,
It's lovely. It's soft. It's sweet. Brown sugar, caramel. The burnt oak is there. Lovely, lovely whiskey. In Irish Gaelic, the words for water of life, which is what we call whiskey, is whiskey bat, sláinte.